My parents made me their personal ATM since I was 12, then left me their bankrupt business in their will, so I exposed their decades of fraud. 5 years later, my mom's working at a grocery store and sending letters from the address. She once said she was too good for. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. When my dad hurt his back at work when I was 12, my parents made it clear I needed to step up. My younger brother Marcus was only 8, so obviously he couldn't help. By 16, I was handing over every paycheck to keep our lights on. My parents would hug me and tell me how proud they were of their little provider. Those hugs only came on payday, though. When I turned 19, I got accepted to an out-of-state college with a partial scholarship. I just needed my parents to sign the financial aid paperwork. They refused. They said the family needed me here working. Marcus got into the same college 4 years later, and they signed his papers immediately. They even took out loans for him while I was working 2 jobs to pay our rent. The thing that really trapped me happened when I was 32. I tried to reduce my monthly payments to them from $3,500 to $2,000 because my fiancé Jordan and I wanted to start saving for our wedding. My parents completely lost it. My mom called my boss and told him I was mentally unstable and stealing from my elderly parents. She cried about how I was abusing them financially. I almost lost my senior management position. HR got involved and I had to show bank statements to prove I was actually giving them money, not taking it. It was humiliating. Last year I tried again. I told them I needed to skip just 1 month because Jordan needed surgery. They showed up at my office and made such a scene that security had to escort them out. My biggest client witnessed the whole thing and dropped our company. I lost a $50,000 commission. So when they told me they were updating their will after mom had a mild stroke, I saw it as my light at the end of the tunnel. They had always promised me everything would be mine someday since I had sacrificed so much. Jordan and I always planned to move into their home that my dad built on a huge piece of land. It was our dream home. Jordan and I had just found out we needed IVF to have kids, but I told them we could start treatment after the will was finalized, and I was free. Sunday dinner came around, and my parents were practically glowing. Marcus was there, which should have been my first red flag since he only visited when he needed money. Dad cleared his throat and announced they had finished with the lawyer. Everything goes to Marcus, he said simply. The house, the cars, the investments, all of it. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then Dad said, and you'll get the family business. The family business was Dad's auto shop that had been closed for 5 years. It had $180,000 in debt plus environmental violations from oil disposal and 3 years of back taxes. This is a joke, right? I said. Marcus couldn't hide his smirk. I'll take good care of the house, bro. You're so good with money, you'll turn it around, my mom said. Jordan spoke up. That shop will bankrupt us. My mom's face hardened. Besides, Marcus will give us grandchildren. You failed us there too. The final blow came when my dad added, of course we'll still need our monthly payments while you get the shop sorted out. I stood up and walked out while my dad yelled about ungrateful children. In the car, Jordan showed me something on her phone. She had been documenting everything. $412,000 over 15 years. Every payment, every receipt, every bank transfer. She had also been recording my parents' threats and had video of the office incident. I've been preparing, Jordan said. I knew this day would come. My phone buzzed. It was Diane, my parents' paralegal friend. The shop has liens. Don't sign anything. Call me now. I researched the shop that night. It would need $300,000 just to break even. The environmental cleanup alone would cost $100,000. It wasn't an inheritance. It was a prison designed to keep me paying for them forever. I went back the next day with a folder of documents. I've learned from my past mistakes, I said, placing everything on the table. Here's a cease and desist letter from my lawyer. My mom started crying. How will we survive? The bank is closed. Permanently, I said. I pulled out another document. I've already notified the creditors that I won't be accepting your business. Marcus went pale. But you have to take the shop. It's family legacy. Your inheritance, your problem, I said. Hope the house sells for enough to cover it. My dad stood up red-faced. We'll destroy you. We'll call your job again. Try it, I said calmly. I have lawyers this time. I walked out as my parents turned on Marcus, demanding to know how he planned to pay for the shop debts. 3 weeks later, Diane called me urgently. She said she had something important to tell me about my grandmother's estate. Your grandmother left you a trust, she said. Your parents hid it from you. Turns out my parents had been taking money from me for longer than I thought. Diane asked me to meet her at her office the next morning. I brought Jordan with me because I needed someone there who could think clearly. My hands were shaking when Diane pulled out a thick folder. She explained that my grandmother had set up a trust fund for me when I was born. It was supposed to be mine when I turned 25. The trust had started with $150,000 and should have grown significantly over the years. Diane showed me the original documents with my grandmother's signature. I recognized her handwriting from birthday cards she used to send me. Then she showed me withdrawal records starting from when I turned 25. Every single withdrawal had my signature on it, except I had never signed anything. I had never even known this trust existed. The signatures were close to mine, but not quite right. Someone had been practicing my signature and withdrawing money for years. The total stolen was over $200,000. I felt sick to my stomach. Jordan grabbed my hand under the table. Diane pulled out more papers. She had bank records showing where the money went. Every withdrawal went straight into my parents' account. They had been stealing from me while I was giving them everything I earned. I hired a forensic accountant that same day. His name was Arthur, and he specialized in family financial fraud. He told me this kind of thing was more common than people realized. Parents stealing from their kids' inheritances happened all the time. Arthur spent 2 weeks going through everything. He found more than just the trust theft. My parents had opened credit cards in my name when I was 16. They'd maxed them out and never paid them. That explained why I could never get approved for anything when I was younger. I thought I was just bad with money. Turns out my credit was destroyed before I even became an adult. Arthur also found something else. The house my parents lived in wasn't actually in their name. It was in mine. They had used money from my trust to buy it, but needed my signature since I was over 18 by then. So they forged it. According to the paperwork, I owned the house free and clear. I had been paying rent on a house I already owned. The irony made me laugh bitterly. The forensic accounting revealed even more. My parents had been claiming me as a dependent on their taxes, even though I hadn't lived with them since I was 20. They were getting tax breaks while I was paying higher taxes as a single filer. They had also been collecting disability payments for my dad's back injury while he was working under the table doing construction. Everything was documented. Every lie, every theft, every forged signature. Arthur compiled it all into a report that was over 100 pages long. I took it to the police. The detective assigned to my case was named Isabella. She said white-collar crime and families was tricky, but the evidence was overwhelming. She would need to interview my parents and Marcus. She warned me things might get ugly. I told her things were already ugly. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. Then Marcus showed up at my apartment. He was sweating and looked panicked. He banged on my door until I opened it. He pushed past me into my living room, his eyes wild with fear. He said Mom and Dad were freaking out because the police had called. He demanded to know what I had done. I told him I was just getting back what was mine. Marcus laughed and said I was being dramatic as always. Then he saw the forensic report on my coffee table. His face went white when he started reading it. He asked if I was really going to send our parents to jail. I told him they had sent themselves to jail when they decided to steal from me. Marcus tried to grab the report, but Jordan stepped between us. She told him to leave before she called the police. Marcus left, but not before telling me I was destroying our family. I told him our parents had already done that. As he stormed out, I noticed his hands were shaking just like mine had been at Diane's office. For the first time in years, Marcus looked scared. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. My mom had posted on Facebook about how her ungrateful daughter was trying to destroy the family. She wrote this long sob story about how they had sacrificed everything for me, and now I was abandoning them in their old age. My aunts and uncles started calling me. My cousin Maria texted asking if I had really called the police on my own parents. I didn't respond to any of them. Jordan deleted Facebook from my phone and told me to focus on what mattered. Detective Isabella called that afternoon. She had interviewed my parents and they denied everything. They claimed I had given them permission to access the trust. They said I had asked them to handle my finances because I was too busy with work. They even produced a letter supposedly from me authorizing them to make withdrawals. The letter was typed and had a signature that looked like mine but wasn't. Isabella said she was sending it to a handwriting expert. She also said my parents had hired hired a lawyer. His name was Donald, and he was known for taking messy family cases. 2 days later, I got a call from my boss. My parents had contacted him again. This time, they told him I was having a mental breakdown and needed help. They said I was making false accusations because I was off my medication. I had never been on medication in my life. My boss asked if everything was okay. I had to sit down and explain the whole situation. He listened quietly, then told me to take a few days off to handle things. He said he understood, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. That night, someone slashed my tires. All 4 of them. The security camera in the parking garage had mysteriously stopped working that day. I knew it was Marcus, but I couldn't prove it. Jordan wanted to stay in a hotel, but I refused to be driven from my own home. We installed new locks and a doorbell camera instead. The next week, my parents' lawyer sent me a letter. They were offering to settle. They would admit to taking $50,000 from the trust and pay it back over 10 years. In exchange, I would drop all criminal charges and continue paying them $2,000 a month. I laughed when I read it. They were still trying to keep me under their control. I told my lawyer to reject the offer. Things escalated quickly after that. My dad showed up at Jordan's work. He told her coworkers that she was manipulating me and turning me against my family. He said Jordan was after my money, which was ironic since I didn't have any money because they had stolen it all. Jordan's boss had to threaten to call security before my dad would leave. Jordan came home crying that day. She said maybe we should just accept the settlement and move on. I told her no. They had taken enough from us. Detective Isabella called with an update. The handwriting expert confirmed the signatures were forged. She also found something interesting. The withdrawals from the trust had stopped 6 months ago, right around the time my mom had her stroke. Isabella thought they had been planning to frame me for elder abuse and claim I had been stealing from them. The stroke had messed up their timeline. Now they were scrambling. My parents tried a new tactic. They started calling my extended family with sob stories. They told my Aunt Emily that I had cut them off financially and they couldn't afford mom's medication. They told my Uncle Billy that I was trying to steal their house. They even called Jordan's parents and told them their daughter was ruining our family. Jordan's mom called us concerned. Jordan had to spend an hour explaining everything. Her parents were horrified when they heard the truth. Arthur, the forensic accountant, found more evidence. My parents had been using my social security number for years. They had opened utility accounts in my name, then never paid them. They had taken out payday loans using my information. The total damage to my credit was staggering. It would take years to fix everything. Arthur said he had seen cases like this before, but rarely this extensive. He asked if I wanted him to keep digging. I told him yes. I needed to know everything. Marcus tried calling me repeatedly. I didn't answer. He left voicemail saying we needed to talk. He said mom was making herself sick with worry. He said dad's back was acting up from the stress. He said I was calling them. The last voicemail was different. He sounded hammered. He admitted he knew about the trust. He said mom and dad had promised to share the money with him if he kept quiet. He said he needed his inheritance now because he had debts. He begged me to drop everything. I saved that voicemail. Detective Isabella arrested my parents on a Tuesday morning. She called to warn me it was happening. She said they would likely be released on bail, but the charges were serious. Identity theft, fraud, forgery. The list was long. I sat in my office staring at the wall. I couldn't focus on work. I kept thinking about all those years of giving them everything while they were stealing from me behind my back. My mom called from jail. I don't know why I answered. She was crying hysterically. She said I was a monster. She said she wished she had never had me. She said Marcus was the only child who loved them. She said I would regret this when they were dead. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Jordan held me while I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was angry. So very angry. They made bail that afternoon. Marcus had put up his car as collateral. I found out later he had borrowed money from loan sharks to pay for their lawyer. He was in deep trouble, but that was his choice. He had chosen them over the truth, just like always. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings. My lawyer was building a civil case while the prosecutor handled the criminal charges. We had to document everything. Every forged signature, every stolen payment, every fraudulent account. The stack of evidence grew higher every day. My parents' lawyer kept trying to negotiate. The offers got slightly better each time, but they were still insulting. They wanted to admit to minimal wrongdoing and pay back a fraction of what they stole. They also wanted me to keep supporting them financially. It was delusional. My dad tried to ambush me at the grocery store. I was shopping for dinner when he appeared at the end of the aisle. He looked older, grayer. He started talking about when I was little, how he used to take me fishing, how proud he was when I got my first job. He said we could work this out as a family. I told him we weren't a family. We were victim and criminal. He got angry then. His face turned red like it always did. He said I owed them for raising me. I told him children don't owe their parents for doing the bare minimum. He raised his hand like he was going to hit me. Another shopper, a woman named Melissa, intervened. She asked if I needed help. My dad backed off and left. I finished shopping with shaking hands. My mom tried emotional manipulation. She sent me old photos of us together. Pictures from Christmas, birthdays, family vacations. Each photo came with a message about how much she loved me, how she had only wanted what was best for me, how the trust money had been used for family expenses. I didn't respond. Jordan suggested blocking her number, but I wanted to keep the messages as evidence of harassment. Marcus's desperation grew. The loan sharks wanted their money. He couldn't pay because all his money was tied up in our parents' legal fees. He started showing up at my apartment at all hours, banging on the door, demanding money. The doorbell camera caught everything. He looked terrible. Thin, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. Part of me felt sorry for him. Then I remembered he had known about the theft and said nothing. He had chosen money over his sister. Detective Isabella called with news. They had found more victims. My parents had done this before. My dad's elderly aunt had complained years ago that money was missing from her accounts. She had suspected my parents but couldn't prove it. She had died before anything came of it. There were also questions about my grandmother's death. She had changed her will shortly before dying, leaving everything to my parents instead of dividing it between them and her other children. The signature looked suspicious. They were investigating, though too much time had passed to bring charges. My workplace situation deteriorated. Despite my boss saying he understood, the constant drama was affecting my performance. Clients asked questions about the family visiting my office. Coworkers whispered about the police involvement. I overheard someone saying I must have done something to deserve it. No one understood how parents could steal from their own child, so I must be lying. I started looking for a new job. Jordan was my rock through everything. She handled the lawyers when I couldn't. She documented every incident. She kept me eating when I forgot. She reminded me why we were fighting. We deserved to start our family without my parents' shadow hanging over us. We deserved to use our money for IVF instead of supporting thieves. We deserved peace. The forensic evidence kept mounting. Arthur found investment accounts my parents had opened in my name. They had been playing the stock market with my money and losing. The losses were significant. He also found property they had bought using funds from my trust. Not just the house, but vacant land and a rental property. Everything was in my name, but I had never seen a penny of profit. The rental income went straight to their accounts. My parents' lawyer made another offer. This time they admitted to taking $150,000. They offered to sign over the house and rental property to settle the debt. They would also agree to no contact if I dropped the criminal charges. My lawyer said it was progress, but still not enough. The actual theft was over $400,000 when you counted everything, plus the damage to my credit and career. We rejected the offer. That's when things got dangerous. I started getting anonymous threats, text messages saying I would regret this, emails describing what would happen if I didn't drop the charges. I gave everything to Detective Isabella. She increased patrols around my apartment. She said my parents denied sending the threats, but the language was similar to their other messages. She believed it was them or someone acting on their behalf. One night, Jordan and I came home to find our door open. Nothing was stolen, but things were moved around. Pictures turned face down, drawers opened, papers scattered. It was a message. They could get to us whenever they wanted. We called the police and made a report. The officer said without evidence of forced entry, there wasn't much they could do. We stayed in a hotel that night. I met with Detective Isabella the next day. She said the criminal case was solid, but these intimidation tactics were concerning. She suggested I consider a restraining order. The problem was proving my parents were behind it. Marcus had alibis for everything. My parents claimed they were too distraught to leave their house. Without concrete proof, we were stuck. My cousin Maria reached out. She said she had been thinking about everything. She remembered odd things from when we were kids. How my grandmother always gave me birthday money, but it always disappeared. How my parents would say they were putting it in savings for me. How they did the same thing to her brother when his dad died and left him money. She said she believed me now. It was a small victory, but it meant something. The prosecutor called with an update. My parents' lawyer was pushing for a plea deal. They would plead guilty to lesser charges and avoid jail time. Instead, they would get probation and have to pay restitution. The prosecutor said it was my choice, but trials were risky. Juries sometimes sympathized with elderly parents even when they were guilty. I said I needed to think about it. Jordan and I talked for hours that night. Part of me wanted them in jail. They'd stolen years of my life, not just money, but part of me just wanted it over. The stress was calling us. We hadn't started IVF because we couldn't handle more emotional turmoil. We were living in fear, always looking over our shoulders. Maybe probation and restitution were enough. Maybe we could finally move forward. I was leaning toward accepting the plea deal when Arthur called. He'd found something big. My parents had life insurance policies on me. Multiple policies totaling over $1 million. They had been paying the premiums with money from my trust. I was horrified. Why did they need life insurance on me? Arthur said it was common in financial abuse cases. If something happened to me, they would get a huge payout. It cast the recent threats in a new terrifying light. I called Detective Isabella immediately. She took the information seriously. Life insurance policies combined with threats and intimidation painted a disturbing picture. She said she would look into it further. She also strongly suggested I not be alone anywhere. Jordan and I started varying our routines. We took different routes to work, shopped at different stores, avoided predictable patterns. My parents must have sensed things were shifting against them. Their lawyer reached out with a new offer. Full restitution of $400,000, transfer of all property in my name, and they would plead guilty to all charges. In exchange, they wanted the minimum sentence possible. My lawyer said it was the best offer we would get. The prosecutor agreed. With good behavior, they might only serve a year or two. It wasn't enough for what they had done, but it was something. I struggled with the decision. These people had raised me, even if they had done it badly. They were still my parents. But then I thought about all the opportunities they had stolen. The education I never got. The wedding Jordan and I had to postpone. The children we couldn't afford to have yet. They'd stolen my past and tried to steal my future. They deserved whatever punishment they got. Before I could decide, Marcus made his move. He showed up at my office with two men I didn't recognize. Large men with hard faces. Security stopped them in the lobby, but Marcus screamed up at my window. He said I had ruined his life. He said the family business debts were being called in. He said people were coming for him because of me. He said if I didn't fix this, he would fix me. Security escorted them out, but the threat was clear. I called Detective Isabella about Marcus's visit. She pulled security footage and identified one of the men with Marcus. He had a record for assault and extortion. He worked for the loan sharks Marcus had borrowed from. Now I understood. Marcus was in danger, and he was desperate enough to put me in danger too. Isabella said she would have Marcus brought in for questioning. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how it had come to this. My own family threatening me, stalking me, trying to destroy me. All because I had finally said no. All because I had demanded what was mine. Jordan held me as I cried. Not from sadness, but from exhaustion. I was so tired of being afraid, so tired of fighting, but I couldn't give up now. Not when we were so close. The next morning brought chaos. Marcus had been arrested for making terroristic threats. The loan sharks he owed had also been picked up on unrelated charges. My parents' house had been searched and police found evidence of their crimes. Forged documents, fake IDs in my name, records of all their schemes. They had kept everything thinking they would never be caught. Their arrogance was their downfall. My mom called from her lawyer's office. She was calmer than I had ever heard her. She said she would accept the plea deal. She would plead guilty and serve her time, but she had one condition. She wanted to see me one last time, to explain why they had done it. I didn't owe her anything, but I was curious. After all these years, I wanted to understand. Jordan didn't want me to go, but I needed closure. We met at the lawyer's office with everyone present. My mom looked small and old. She started talking about her childhood, how poor they had been, how she had sworn her children would never struggle like she did. She said the trust money was supposed to be for the family. She said I was selfish for wanting it all for myself. She said she had only taken what I would have wasted anyway. Even facing prison, she couldn't admit she was wrong. She still saw me as a resource to be exploited, not a daughter to be loved. My dad spoke next. He talked about his injury and how it had ruined his dreams. He said I had been his retirement plan. He had raised me to take care of them, and I had betrayed that purpose. He said Marcus understood family loyalty. He said I was corrupted by Jordan and her selfish modern ideas. He actually believed his own lies. In his mind, stealing from me was justified because I existed to serve them. I sat there listening to their excuses and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. These people were strangers to me. They had never been real parents. Real parents don't steal from their children. Real parents don't destroy their children's future. Real parents love unconditionally, not just on payday. I stood up to leave. My mom asked if I had anything to say. I told her I forgave them. Not for their sake, but for mine. I wouldn't carry their poison anymore. As I walked out, my dad called after me. He said when they got out of prison, they would need somewhere to stay. He actually thought I would take them in after everything. I didn't even turn around. I just kept walking. Jordan was waiting in the car. She asked how it went. I told her I was free. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. The legal process moved quickly after that. My parents pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and forgery. They were sentenced to 18 months in federal prison with 5 years probation after. They had to pay full restitution, though I knew I would never see all of it. Marcus pled guilty to making threats and got 6 months plus anger management. The loan sharks he owed were a different problem, but that wasn't my concern anymore. The house was officially transferred to my name. Jordan and I went to see it after my parents were taken to prison. It was strange being there without them. Everything looked the same but felt different. This was supposed to be our dream home, but now it just felt tainted. We decided to sell it. Use the money for a fresh start somewhere new. Somewhere without memories of manipulation and lies. My credit slowly improved as Arthur helped me dispute all the fraudulent accounts. My employer was understanding once the truth came out in court. Some coworkers apologized for doubting me. Others still whispered, but I didn't care anymore. I had survived the worst my family could do. Office gossip couldn't touch me. I even got promoted when my boss realized how well I had handled everything while dealing with such personal turmoil. The house sold faster than we expected. A young family bought it and seemed excited about the big yard for their kids. I signed the papers without feeling anything. Just another transaction. The money went straight into a new account at a different bank, one my parents had never touched. Jordan and I found a nice apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. No memories attached. 6 months into their sentence, I got a letter from my mom. The prison return address made my stomach turn. Jordan wanted to throw it away unopened, but I was curious. She wrote about how hard prison was, how the other inmates were mean to her, how the food was terrible and she missed her own bed. Not one word of apology, just complaints and hints that I should put money in her commissary account. I threw it in the trash. Marcus got out first. His 6 months were up and he immediately started calling. I had changed my number, but he found the new one somehow. He left voicemails saying he was sorry. He said he had learned his lesson. He said he just needed a little help getting back on his feet. Maybe a place to stay for a few weeks. Maybe a small loan. The same old Marcus. I blocked the number. Arthur finished unwinding all the financial fraud. The final tally was staggering. Between the trust theft, credit fraud, and tax evasion, my parents had stolen close to $500,000 over 20 years. And that didn't count the opportunities lost or the emotional damage. He helped me file insurance claims and recover what we could. Some debts were too old to dispute, but we cleared most of them. Jordan and I finally started IVF treatments. The first round didn't take. The second round ended in miscarriage. We were devastated, but kept trying. The clinic was expensive, but for the first time, we could actually afford it. No more sending thousands to my parents every month. That money could go toward our future instead of feeding their greed. My extended family slowly came around. Aunt Emily called to apologize for believing my parents' lies. She said she should have known something was wrong when they kept asking everyone for money while I was supposedly taking care of them. Uncle Billy sent a card saying he was proud of me for standing up for myself. Even some cousins reached out with support. Not everyone believed me, but enough did. Detective Isabella called with an update on the investigation into my grandmother's death. They couldn't prove anything criminal, but the will changes were definitely suspicious. The lawyer who had done them had since been disbarred for other shady dealings. She said my parents were lucky too much time had passed, otherwise they might have faced additional charges. I got a new job with better pay and less drama. Nobody there knew about my family situation, and I kept it that way. It was nice being judged on my work instead of my personal life. My new boss, a woman named Jacqueline, became something of a mentor. She taught me to negotiate for myself instead of always putting others first. Prison changed my parents. When they got out after 18 months, they looked older and smaller. They moved in with Marcus, who was living in a tiny apartment. I heard through family gossip that they were struggling. Good. They needed to learn what it felt like to actually be poor, instead of just claiming poverty while stealing from me. They tried contacting me when they got out. Showed up at my old apartment, but we had already moved. Went to my old job, but I wasn't there anymore. They even tried going through Jordan's parents, but her family stood firm. Eventually they gave up, or so I thought. The third round of IVF worked. Jordan was pregnant with twins. We were over the moon, but also terrified. 2 babies meant double everything. We started preparing, buying cribs and car seats, setting up college funds that no one could touch but us. These kids would have what I never did. Security and parents who put them first. That's when my parents made one last play. They sued me. Said the house sale was illegal because they were under duress when they signed it over. Said I had manipulated them into confessing. Their new lawyer, some ambulance chaser named Alan, filed a civil suit demanding the house money back plus damages. It was desperate and pathetic, but I still had to respond. My lawyer laughed when he saw the filing, said they had no case. The criminal convictions made it clear who the real criminals were. Plus, they had pled guilty. Hard to claim innocence after that, but we still had to go through the motions. More legal fees, more stress while Jordan was pregnant. The civil case was dismissed quickly. The judge basically told their lawyer to stop wasting the court's time. My parents had admitted guilt in criminal court. They couldn't now claim they were innocent in civil court. Their lawyer tried to appeal, but no one would take the case. Even ambulance chasers have standards, apparently. Marcus reached out during this time, not to apologize, but to blame me. Said our parents were broken because of me. Said they cried every night. Said mom's health was failing, and it was my fault. I didn't respond, but I did some checking. Found out mom was working at a grocery store. Same kind of job I had done at 16 to support them. Karma really did exist. Jordan went into labor 2 weeks early. I was in a meeting when she called. I drove like a maniac to the hospital. 8 hours later, we had 2 perfect babies, a boy and a girl. We named them after Jordan's grandparents, not mine. These kids would have a fresh start with no toxic legacy attached to their names. My parents found out about the twins somehow. They sent a card to the hospital. Inside was a note about how grandparents had rights, how they would take me to court for visitation, how I couldn't keep their grandchildren from them. I gave the card to my lawyer. He sent them a cease and desist letter. They had no rights to anything of mine. Not my money, not my time, and definitely not my children. We moved again just to be safe. Different city this time. Fresh start completely. I worked remotely, so the job wasn't an issue. Jordan found a new position easily. We bought a small house in a good school district. Nothing fancy like my parents' place, but it was perfect for us. A real home built on love, not lies. The twins grew fast. Every milestone felt like a victory. First smiles, first steps, first words. My parents missed it all because of their choices. Sometimes I felt sad about that. My kids would never know their grandparents. But then I remembered what those grandparents had done. Better know grandparents than toxic ones. 2 years passed peacefully. We settled into routine. Work, babies, normal life. I even made mom friends who didn't know my history. We had play dates and coffee without drama. It was everything I had wanted, but thought I'd never have. Quiet happiness without constant crisis. Then Diane called. My parents' old paralegal friend who had helped me discover the trust. She was retiring and cleaning out old files. She found something she thought I should see. Documents from when I was born. Apparently my grandmother had set up education funds for all grandchildren. Not just the trust. Separate accounts specifically for college. My parents had drained those too. Forged my signature to close the accounts when I turned 18. Used the money for Marcus's college while telling me I couldn't afford school. The betrayal still stung even after everything else. But Diane had good news. The bank had kept records. The fraud was documented. I could add it to the restitution order. My lawyer filed the additional claims. My parents' probation officer was not happy they had hidden more stolen assets. The judge added another year of probation and increased the restitution amount. My parents would be paying me back until they died. Still not enough for what they stole, but something. Marcus disappeared around this time. The family gossip network said he had skipped town owing money to the wrong people. My parents were evicted from his apartment when he stopped paying rent. They ended up in a shelter briefly before finding subsidized senior housing. The same kind of place they had always said they were too good for. I felt nothing when I heard. No satisfaction, but no pity either. They had made their choices. Every theft, every lie, every manipulation had led them here. They had 2 children who could have loved them. Instead, they had 2 victims who wanted nothing to do with them. They had chosen money over family and ended up with neither. The twins started preschool. Jordan and I both cried at drop-off. They were so confident and happy. No anxiety about money, no fear of disappointment, just normal kids living normal lives. Everything I had worked for, everything my parents had tried to steal. But we had won in the end. My credit score finally recovered fully. It had taken 5 years, but all the fraud was cleared. I even qualified for a business loan. Started my own consulting firm. Used everything I had learned about financial fraud to help other victims. Turns out there were a lot of us. Adult children discovering their parents had stolen their identities and futures. One client's story hit close to home. Her name was Melissa, same as the woman who had helped me at the grocery store. Her parents had done almost exactly what mine did. Stolen her inheritance, ruined her credit, demanded monthly payments while hiding assets. I helped her uncover it all, helped her find justice. It felt good turning my pain into purpose. The business grew. I hired Arthur as a contractor. We made a good team. He found the fraud, and I helped clients process the emotional side. Because that was the hardest part. Not the money, but the betrayal. Learning the people who should protect you had systematically destroyed you instead. It took time to heal from that. Jordan suggested I write about our experience. Start a blog or something. Help others recognize the signs. I thought about it, but wasn't ready. Maybe someday. For now, I was focused on moving forward. Building the life my parents had tried to deny me. Being the parent they never were. We had one more scare when the twins were 5. My dad had a heart attack. Marcus surfaced long enough to call me. Said dad was dying and wanted to see me. Said I would regret not saying goodbye. I asked if dad had said he was sorry. Marcus went quiet, then admitted no. Dad still thought I owed him. I wished Marcus well and hung up. Dad survived, but barely. Needed constant care after. Mom couldn't provide it while working. They ended up in separate facilities. Mom in senior housing, dad in a nursing home. The state paid because they had no assets. All their schemes, and they ended up exactly where they had always feared. Dependent on strangers because their children wouldn't help. I know some people judge me. Think I'm heartless for not helping them. Those people didn't live my life. Didn't have their future stolen by the people who were supposed to love them most. They don't understand that no contact isn't cruelty. It's self-defense. The only way to stop the cycle. The twins are 7 now. They ask about grandparents sometimes. We tell them age-appropriate truths. Some people aren't safe to be around. Even family. It's sad, but protecting them is more important than maintaining appearances. They understand in their own way. Kids are smarter than we think. Jordan and I are trying for another baby. IVF again, but we can afford it now. My parents' monthly payments actually cover the treatments. Ironic that the money they stole is helping create the grandchildren they'll never meet. But that's their loss. They chose money over family and lost both. Sometimes I dream about them. Not nightmares anymore, just sad dreams. What could have been if they had been different people? If they had loved me for me instead of what I could provide. But you can't change people. You can only change how you respond to them. I chose freedom. Looking back, I'm grateful in a weird way. Their betrayal taught me strength. Their lies taught me to value truth. Their conditional love taught me to love unconditionally. I'm a better parent because I know what not to do. My kids will never doubt they're loved. Never feel like walking ATMS. Never have to buy affection with paychecks. The trust money is long gone, but I've built something better. A life life free from manipulation. A family based on love, not transactions. True security that no one can steal. My parents gave me nothing but trauma and debt, but from that, nothing I built everything. And that's the best revenge of all.